Good thing.
All right. All right. Go ahead, Roxanne.
Yes, my name is Roxanne Edmonds, and I met Eric through John, and he invited me to be part of his podcast, and I'm honored to be here and just participating in the discussion that's close to my heart.
And
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Monroe, and I go by the name Ann a lot. I am also in Atlanta, and I am honored to be here and to be a part of this discussion as well.
Sir Alex.
Hi, my name is Alex Mikulevich, and I am blessed to be working out of the same gym that Eric works out at. We've had some good conversations about the way our minds operate, and we've noticed that we seem to be vibrating on the same frequency. You know, he's had some wise words from me exactly when I've needed them, and it's an honor to be a part of this today.
And again, you've all had a chance to my wonderful co-host, but if Angela, if you could kind of you're muted.
All right, sorry about that. My name is Angela Jones. I am from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm so excited just to be a part of this conversation and to meet each and every one of you. Eric and I met because we actually partner. I have a organization where I integrate, basically, we've redefined wealth as it relates to wellness by integrating personal growth, meaningful relationships, and holistic well-being. So this is definitely in alignment with my mission as far as my agency and the partnership that Eric and I have formed.
Yeah. So before we get into the discussion, I want everybody to just stop for a second and realize what's going on here, right? The universe has brought 5 very powerful people who basically operate on the same frequency together. Just imagine the energy that's present right here. And we're going to have a podcast and we're going to discuss whatever we discuss, but nothing, absolutely nothing happens in this world by mistake. So there is a reason that we're here on this day at this time on this channel and operating in this frequency. So I'm completely excited. It doesn't even matter to me what is said in this podcast. Just to be present in this energy field is enough for me. Now, I'm sure that everybody's going to have wonderful things to say that'll elevate the vibration, but the vibration to me right now is absolutely, absolutely amazing. You know, one of the reasons that I started this podcast is because I see people every day and they just kind of maneuver through life and don't really have a purpose or know what their purpose is. And they operate from a very low frequency of, let me just get through my day so I can go back to sleep and wake up tomorrow and do the exact same thing. And one of the things that I was blessed to discover a long time ago, and I think when I was a child, I began to believe that there was more than just existing. And along my journey, it became a lot more clear that this whole carnation, this whole life, this whole existence is really about understanding who you are, the journey to self. How do you operate? Why do you think the way that you do? What is your presence that you present to the world? Is it the present that you want to present to the world? It's all about self-discovery. And so tonight, what I want us to talk about is negative self-talk. Where does it come from? How do we recognize it? And how do we change it? And again, there's a reason that I picked all of you, or I wanted you all to be involved in this conversation, because I think that we've all had our fair share of negative self-talk. And we've had to investigate where it comes from and we've had to be on top of things to be able to control it, to be able to move forward towards whatever success means to us. So I'm just going to open the floor and sit back and soak it all in.
So I remember, I call this the birth of my ego. You know, I'm in the recovery program. I get asked to tell my story a whole lot. And I can remember when the shift happened. I used to play baseball for a league out here in Cleveland called West Denison, right? The first year I played, I was able to play every position. I was hitting grand slams, home runs. I was really good. I play a year later, just 1 year later, same league, same everything. I think maybe you know, for a little older kids at this point, and I sucked. I was horrible, and I think that within that year span is when the analytical mind or the ego got super strong, and I started identifying with all the thoughts that were coming to it. I believe I sucked. I believed I was inferior, so that's what I became on the baseball field, right? And it's not like I forgot how to play. It's just I started to doubt myself through the negative self-talk. That plagued me for many years, up till 6 years ago about. I've been in and out of prison. I had lives of addiction, lives of, you know, of crimes. I've been shot 4 times. I've been through a whole lot of stuff following that same mind that used to put me down. It wasn't until I started really just not necessarily like not I started working a spiritual program, to be honest. I started seeing how everything is connected. I started seeing how everything is happening to teach me something. I truly started to believe that everything that happens in my life, whether perceived good, bad, or ugly, is happening to serve me. You know, I started welcoming these thoughts and feelings to the surface because I believe that they are there to teach me something. You know, I've become awfully positive, not awfully positive. I've become extremely positive, trying to reframe stuff, but I still fall victim to negative thoughts. And at this point, instead of trying to get up out of them or like, oh, I need to feel good right now, I accept it for what it was, what it is, detach from it, even though if that negative thought, because thoughts trigger emotions, right? Even if it triggered a negative emotion. And I asked the universe or my higher power, whatever it is, I asked that force that is to help me learn something from it. And most of the time it's me giving power to someone else or a circumstance that I find unfavorable to me, or it's always me doing it to me, you know. And with this perspective, my whole life has changed, completely changed. You know what I mean? And that's all I got right now.
So just real quick, Alex, you believe that negative self-talk basically began with a situation and your perception of something from when you were younger and kind of traveled with you?
Yeah, I remember within that year, I don't know if I hit puberty, what it was. I just know that talking mind became very loud and I started identifying with it and believing the things it was saying, you know, and it perfected my performance in life. The baseball, yes, that's a literal thing, but it affected me in all areas of life. I felt inferior to others because of it, because of what that voice was saying, the internal dialogue.
That makes sense. What about yourself, Miss Ann?
So as for me, as far as I go, I think my belief really is that, kind of going back on what Eric said, I just want to acknowledge it, is that, yeah, that you acknowledge, you make some space between the negative thoughts, and then you reframe. And then going back to what you said, Eric, about seeing people just going through their day, and it just reminded me that when I have had negative thoughts and when I have allowed negative thoughts to take charge, it was one because I was going through my day and I didn't realize that it was my responsibility to create my day. I didn't realize that the emotions are
I think we lost her for a minute. There she is.
connected to my feelings and my thoughts. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You dropped off, but you're back.
Okay, so I was saying that my emotions are connected to my feelings and my thoughts. And once I realized that it was my responsibility to create my day, and then once I found out the truth about who I am, right? And even just different things with some part of like the Bible, let's say, where it says, as a man, probably anyway, but there's a saying that as a man thinketh, so is he. And I remember when I first worked with you, I wasn't ready to work with you. And, later on, I realized that once I realized that what I wanted was possible and it was up to me to create whatever I want. And I sort of viewed my mind like a garden where the weeds will come up or the negative thoughts will come up, but it was my responsibility, just like if I have a physical garden, to pluck those out and or put in the things that I would like to see. So definitely a lot of negative talk. One, from the people that I was around or taking in what was.
You were saying once.
I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure if it's because I'm in the airport. It kind of keeps going in and out. But yeah, so that has been my experience with negative thoughts. But I think for me, it just stemmed from not knowing the truth and going with what others thought about me in the spaces that I was in. And some of it just assuming stuff, and then some of it just allowing it to take charge or to overgrow the garden.
Thank you. Sense. Miss Roxanne.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've had some audio issues. So I guess going back to your question, where does it come from? Well, it comes from the program. And I think we've all experienced that. And just to preface the message where Alex says he still struggles, I still struggle with it. Even with my awareness of everything that I know, I still have days where I struggle with my thoughts and my emotions. But I've read a lot of literature with Dr. Joe Dispenza and talking about how, we can control it. So for me, it's always been meditation and then metacognition, just practicing interrupting those negative thoughts right as they happen. And then also being really aware of my emotional triggers and trying to figure out where those are coming from, and then trying to, talk myself down or back upstream, as Esther Hicks puts it, whenever those thoughts creep in. Is that what you wanted to know, where they come from, or how to?
Yeah, where they come from, a little bit about your experience from them, how you deal with them.
Right. So I can't really pinpoint. I was diagnosed with CPTSD, which is a complex form. So there's a lot of trauma all through my childhood and then some in adulthood. And I had to figure out how to help myself, because I quickly realized that the system was broken. They just wanted to medicate me and send me on my way. And so I poured into, Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, Esther Hicks, and I started to notice my thoughts for the first time, because for a long time, I just thought that was, normal, like everything that I thought. So I started with applying metacognition, where I would just listen to the voice, like really listen to what it was saying and how it was making me feel. Um, I had a lot of self-doubt, crippling anxiety. I couldn't leave my room. Um, and often the thoughts were associated with shame and guilt. Um, and so I had to separate the thoughts from consciousness, which is me. I had to realize that those were just thoughts, and then there was me. Um, and that really helped me help me figure out how to control them, because I knew that those were not me, that was the program, and I just had to reprogram myself. Um, and then of course I went through the rabbit hole of healing and trying to figure out um, how to reprogram. So that led me to John's program, and then Dr. Joe Dispenza and Esther Hicks. Um, and you're absolutely right. We are all energy, vibration, and frequency. And so once I started to view myself that way, I could more filter the negative thoughts that were passing through, um, which is a really hard task, especially if you have spent all your life thinking really negative. So I started to really practice feeling better. And I learned to control my emotions in that way, rather than filter every single thought that I was thinking in that moment. I don't know if that makes sense.
1,000%. 1,000%. I listened to Roxanne and I listened to Alex, and both of you said that you still struggle with negative self-talk. Listen, I wake up every single morning. I promise you, it's like clockwork. I wake up every single morning, and 10 minutes after I'm up, bam, there it is. Every single day. There it is. So I don't know if it ever goes away. It gets quieter. It has less control. It has less power. But I don't know if it ever goes away. So for me, I started thinking negative about myself as far back as I can remember. I grew up in foster homes, and I always heard this comment from different people, or maybe I made it up myself, but it was real to me. And it basically went like, if your mom doesn't want you, nobody's going to want you. Right? Because my mom placed me up for adoption. So that followed me my whole life, which brought on feelings of self-doubt, inadequacy, low value, a lot of low vibrational things. So I'm 57 years old. So if you think the same thought, and it runs, and it is the program, and it runs in your mind every single day for 50 some years, what's the chances of it just waking up one day and just disappearing? Very little chance. The beauty for me is that I realized many years ago that if I can think something, I can also say something. Like, I can take control of my dialogue. I can't stop the thought from coming, but I can redirect my thinking. Some of you who went through John's program remember this thing. And I refer to this all the time because it's so true for me. And I'll give an example. And when I was listening to Alex, one of the first things I thought of is how damaging that negative self-talk can be. Because Alex is an amazing man. I mean, the energy you get from him. But because of that feeling inferior, low vibration, it brings and attracts all kind of low vibrational things. And I think we've all experienced that. I have. I've experienced a lot of crazy situations in my life because I operated so low. But I just want to refer to this real quick because it really made a lot of sense to me. And just so you understand, these are our five senses, right? The top is our conscious, and then we have our subconscious. Now, our subconscious is where all that negative self-talk exists. Our subconscious is what's responsible for the majority of things that we do. Our subconscious keeps us alive and keeps our organs moving when we sleep. It is the most powerful part of the brain. Without thinking, we do everything from our subconscious, everything that we've learned. So the way that it was explained to me, and I use this because it made so much sense to me, and I'll give you an example. We either we see something, we hear something, we touch something, we taste something, whatever the other sense is that I just, one of our five senses, we see something from our five senses that we want. Example happened many times in my life. I'd see an attractive woman or a woman who sparked my imagination or did something to me to make me believe that that's a situation that I want to be in. From this sense, it enters my conscious and I say, I want that. And it'll be so wonderful. But then once I get in a relationship, guess what happens? That thought of feeling like no woman will ever want me smothers it, chokes the shit out of it. That's just an example, but for me, that's how it works. All of the feelings that my perceptions of situations that happened when I was a child, all of the stuff that people said about me that eventually I took ownership of, it wasn't that they said stuff to me. That was the issue. The issue was, but I took ownership of it. I made it mine. And I repeated those tapes over and over and over and over and over again. The way that I learned how to change this is that I know that this programming is there. Once I identify what the program is, then I can start saying the exact polar opposite of it. So if my mind says that I'm unworthy, then my response back to it is I'm extremely worthy. And just like those tapes have been growing and planting seeds and operating in my subconscious for years, so you can imagine if the best way is to come up with the polar opposite, you can imagine how many times I have to say that. But if I repeat it, it gets bigger and the negative self-talk becomes smaller. That's the thing that has worked for me. But I'll tell you something else that I started doing about 6 months ago, and I'll tell you it's amazing. Because everything is frequency, right? We can agree that everything is frequency. Love is one of the highest vibrational frequencies. Fear is very low. If I think love and I try to keep my mind in a loving mindset, the negative self-talk isn't loud as it used to be. I pay it very little attention. If I can keep my mindset focused on love, giving love and receiving love, I don't pay as much attention to the negative self-talk. So that's really what's worked for me, along with understanding what my negative self-talk is. You know, I can think of 5 basic things that always came to me. You're unworthy. Another big one of me when it came to making money was money is the root of all evil. If I believe money is the root of all evil, how much money am I going to attract? Right? The other one is that you will never be good as whoever it is. Those are just a couple that controlled my whole entire life. But I had to be able to identify them first before I could do anything about it. And hopefully that made sense. But yeah, negative self-talk, I've watched it ruin lives. If you feel like you're not good enough, if you operate from a low vibrational standpoint, everything in your life is going to be on the same frequency because we attract what's on our frequency.
Yeah, Eric, to your point, I was actually on a path of ruining my life with negative self-talk because at a very young age, I took ownership of negative words that was said to me just as a child from adults. I can remember just strangers in the street comparing my sibling and I to one another. And they will always compliment, my sibling, and then, not so much me, so to speak, but then also, growing up, going to school, I was bullied, I was picked on. So I took on ownership of a lot of negative words. And for years, I became a prisoner of my thoughts, where my thoughts literally dictated every move I made, or the lack thereof. So, in order for me to overcome, which thankfully I did overcome, although it took me many years to do so, for me, it was one, becoming aware, because it was so habit formed. A lot of times I didn't even realize that I was even experiencing negative self-talk because I had adopted that as a frame of, that's just the way that I communicated with myself. That was my reality. So for me, it was just becoming more aware and then understanding the root cause and just being intentional. Even to this day, of course, my negative self-talk, like you said, it's more of a whisper now, but I don't know that it will ever go away. So I really have to be intentional with redirecting those thoughts and, understanding that, you know, negative self-talk is just really distorted thinking.
Yeah, it's wrongful. It's wrong thinking. It's wrong thinking.
And I think that on part of the journey as well, once you realize it's the wrong thinking, what I recognized was that my mind is going to think regardless. Because like sometimes, let's say as a meditation teacher, sometimes you sit down to do meditation and your mind still keeps going. And so even if you don't engage, like your mind could say, I told you it wasn't good enough. I told you nobody's going to like you. And even if you don't reply, your mind is going to keep going. And it's almost like your mind is like, either like a roommate or somebody that, if you've ever been in company with somebody, they just keep talking, whether or not you engage in a conversation. And so the one thing is that you realize at some point, you got to just let that person talk and do what you're doing. And Eric, when you said that the subconscious is really important, I think the tricky thing about it, I've realized for myself, is that the subconscious doesn't know what's true or not. So whatever I'm telling myself, it's taking that as true and creating that for me. And so not knowing that for a long time was tricky.
No, no,
Very true.
So kind of Roxanne kind of mentioned something about the observer role. And once I learned how to do that, just like right now, I could hear my thoughts, right? I could hear them, whether they're good, bad, indifferent, whatever. The point is I could hear them, right? So if I could hear them, that means that essentially they're not really me, and having been in a prison of the mind, once I realized that I'm not confined to those thoughts not more, it was such a freeing experience, right? So I'm a fitness trainer and I'm a nutritionist, right? I teach people how to get in shape, and I also teach people how to diet correctly, right? When it comes to subconscious programming or reprogramming, our diet matters, our mental and spiritual diet. I notice I get into a temperament if I listen to too much like gangster rap, in my headphones, slightly change just a little bit because I'm picking up that frequency on a subconscious level, In the morning, I'm at this point, I always do a gratitude list. I started a gratitude thread. The reason I do that is because what I focus on, especially in theta brainwaves, which is when we wake up and when we go to sleep, Joe Dispenza talks about that. Roxanne, you said that. that's like when we could program ourselves, you know. For instance, I think Tony Robbins said this: if I think of the color red right now, think hardcore red, 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 and then I glance around, you see red in the area. So if I'm constantly bringing it back to positive things, especially in the morning by doing these gratitude lists, doing stuff like that, my subconscious is somehow is from there getting programmed to see other things throughout my day, to be gratitude, to see gratitude in, you know what I mean? Kind of like the red color, you know. And I think self-awareness to me is simply this: being able to observe your thoughts and recognize, you know, that perhaps it's just a software program running on the hardware that needs to be fixed, and understanding that it can be fixed. Self-awareness to me is like a superpower. It's having self-awareness and being able to identify unconscious thoughts or whatever. Yeah, unconscious thoughts is the difference between traveling towards fate and traveling towards destiny.
I agree.
And you make some very valid points. Very valid.
But you know, you said something that I'm going to really have to think about for a minute. You said that if I can hear myself thinking, then it's not me. That's pretty profound.
Eckhart Tolle actually pointed that out. I started noticing that myself. My last time in prison, the time that everything changed, I got put in solitary confinement, and I had a girlfriend who was leaving me. This mind was so loud and damaging that I literally, it's like my spirit, the true me, had no choice but to detach and just watch these thoughts go by, right? And what I started doing, and I'm sitting there, I started literally thinking of myself like a almost like a cell phone, right? And what I mean by that is every time a thought would come, I'll swipe, just like I'm swiping these freaking, you know, swiping all them apps out. You know what I mean? And then it just occurred, you know, someone, I forgot who said it, but like, we don't always just think, it just happens to us. You see what I'm saying? The way Eckhart Tolle described, um, you know, the thinker and the observer was pretty much this: your eyeballs can minus, if we don't look at ourselves in our reflection or the video of us right now, the eyeballs cannot see themselves because they are the eyeballs, right? Your eyeballs cannot see themselves because they are the eyeballs. So why could we hear our thoughts? Does that make sense? Does that metaphor make sense, or the analogy?
Yep.
But that's just his take on it, and it makes sense to me. You know what I mean? So
As I listen to you, another thing that comes to mind is in this whole process of dealing with negative self-talk is the importance of reading, the importance of discovering new dialogue. Because there's nothing that we can discuss here today that there isn't information out there on how one thing may work for us. You know, there's plenty of information on this stuff, and I think that one of the best things that I discovered, because I'm not a good reader, by the time I read halfway through a page, my mind's already thinking. So, you know, Audible is amazing for me. I can download something and listen to it while I'm driving. But the point is to get information. You know, I always say that the thing that will kill us is not what we know, but what we do not know. And there's no reason that we can't know everything. I mean, there's universal knowledge. We can know everything. And those things that we're unfamiliar with, we can go find the information.
I think it's true, Eric. And I also think that there is too much information, too much misinformation, and a lot of our messaging can get lost in that misinformation. Just look at some of the people who have access to a podcast or a microphone, and you can tell what program they're running on. And then they get others that are running on the same program, and it's like a disease. And I feel like, you know, for the first time in my life, I love to read. I could read for hours. and I love to understand and apply. But I understand most people don't like to read, or they don't, they just, they're bombarded with so much of everything else that they can't find the time or the attention span to really sit and read and take it in. And I believe all of us here were meant to be a voice for those that need to be in alignment and need this information, because not everybody listens to it, because not everybody reads it. I feel like it's our calling to share it with those who need it most, especially in these times where there is so much misinformation, where people are seeking truth. People are seeking truth, and they're drowning. They're drowning in addiction and de depression, anxiety. And then you've got the huge pharmaceutical industry just, giving you medication, prescription after prescription with no actual solution, which was why I decided to become a certified fitness instructor, and then, pursued John's program, because I wanted to understand why, not only myself, but I wanted to learn how to help others. I wanted to understand why it was so hard for, others to lose weight, why it was harder for some, or easier for some to fall in addiction, some type of addiction. And when you really get down to it, um, if nothing else unites us, it's always the science. So for me, learning about metacognition and, everything that Dr. Joe teaches and Abraham Hicks, I understood this is something that we should all know. This is what we should have been programmed with, because I think it's time for us to transition. It's time for all of us to evolve. And I feel like that's what's happening, this year, with all the truths coming out and people evolving and finally opening up their minds. I feel like it's that year where we are finally stepping out of that really closed-minded negative thinking as a collective. And we're finally awakening to the truth that we do have control of our reality, that we do have control of our thoughts, and that we are the creators of our reality. And it's incredibly empowering, because I shouldn't be here, Eric. I should be, under numerous prescriptions. And according to them, I shouldn't, go anywhere or do anything. But I'm here, and it's thanks to everything that I learned and applied. And I just wanted to say that, because I think there's a lot of us who need to share this information with those that are looking for it.
So as you were talking, here's what I thought about, and I want you to just elaborate on what you mean, just real briefly. But you said that we are basically in control of creating our own reality. What do you mean by that?
Well, in Dr. Joe Dispenza's work and Esther Hicks, if you ever listen to any of it, they say we create our own reality. So a lot of it is perspective. You may wake up in the morning and you may wake up in a bad mood in your programming and your thoughts. And sure, you can give in, to that, but ultimately you get to choose gratitude, which is a much higher frequency than likely the program that you're running on. So if I wake up in the morning and I feel like my life is not going the way that I want it to, or the way that I'd planned, there's always something to be grateful for. So in that moment, I get to create my own reality by setting the intention for gratitude. So I'm grateful that I got 10 hours of sleep. I'm grateful that I have a warm bed to sleep in. I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful. And then slowly you start to, turn it around. It's like Esther Hicks says, it's momentum. It's momentum. You stop the negative program right in its tracks, and you gain momentum towards the positive. And in that way, you are the creator of your own reality, because I can wake up two versions. I can wake up the version that ran on the program and nothing changed. I just strengthened the same neural connections in my brain, just ran with the program autopilot. Or I can choose gratitude and slowly shift and gain momentum towards a different person, a different version. And in that way, I create my own reality. So maybe my reality looks like me getting up and meeting a friend for coffee and discovering a new opportunity and so on and so on and so forth, momentum. Or I give into the negative thoughts and I don't go anywhere that day. I created my own reality. Now I'm laying in bed with more negative programs, but I created that. I chose that.
Hmm. So you're kind of like a god of your universe, of your world.
Yes, I mean, that's a way of putting it. I like creator because you can then choose, you can choose, you can create. We're meant to create. Um, and so I think that's what helped me is I'm the creator of my own reality. So I'm like, okay, this circumstance, I'm not saying you have control over every circumstance, but you do have control with do you respond or do you react, and obviously you always want to respond. Um, that's where you have power, is you get to choose how you respond.
Do you believe that, Alex?
Yeah, no, I don't believe it. I know it. I know it. Belief to me is the weak version. Knowing is just like, I know it is what it is. I know that's exactly what it is. It's crazy. I prefer to use the word co-creator. When I use the term God, I think of good orderly direction. I think of if I want to see God, I'm just open my eyes or don't open my eyes. God is everything or God is nothing, right? And so when it comes to creation and changing programs, it's the craziest thing, because I remember when my life change happened, everything became synchronized to my thoughts. Synchronicity started happening like crazy. And it was almost like I was jumping timelines or something. It was crazy. You know what I mean? And, for me, co-creation is like, for instance, I could set the intention, pray, whatever. I need patience, right? Why do I end up in traffic behind freaking handicapped drivers and then freaking semi trucks the next 5 days? I just prayed for patience, because this is how it has to happen. I have to exercise my will in these places to get that patience. I can plant a seed, but it's up to me to water it, type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I remember December 26th last year, I went through a breakup. She left the day after Christmas, right? Christmas, I set the intention or prayer. I need help with codependency. I need help learning to set boundaries. I need help. What was it? Oh, independence. Ironically, she leaves me the next day with diamond earrings and everything. You know what I mean? And I got put into to this place for like 6 months where, yes, the negative self-talk was there. It was. But it wasn't there to hurt me. I needed that negative self-talk because I had to welcome it to bring some childhood shadows to the surface. But if it wasn't for me setting that intention and then the universe formulating things for her to leave the next day, I wouldn't have got that prayer or them intentions fulfilled, because everything I said that night, I had to cut my hand off to save the rest of my body. I had to feel that. You know what I mean? So when it comes to negative circumstance, I truly walk with the perspective that everything is happening to serve Alex. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I'm not saying I'm more superior than anyone around me, but I believe if this person leaves from my life and I'm hurting right now, ultimately this is a good thing. If I stub I take this literally. If I stub my toe, tire goes flat. I hope I don't manifest that by saying it, but tire goes flat. Somehow this is a good thing for me. And then that's all. I never have a bad day no more. I'll never tell you I'm having a bad day. Eric, you can see me every day. I'm never going to say I have a bad day. because I only have good days and I have character building days, and that's the reality of the situation. You know what I mean? I don't know if I got off topic there, but that's it.
And what do you think? Are you a creator? You create your own reality?
I do. I think when I was talking earlier, I had said that, so maybe that's part of when I got cut off. But I do believe that I am a creator. And I know with my thoughts, I am actively creating the world. So my world is created first inside of me, and then, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yeah, and then outside of me. So I do believe that. I also believe that I'm spirit, which means that when I look on the outside, I have all these different diagnoses. But when I look on the inside and I align with spirit, I align with who I am. So then that's like when I think Roxanne spoke about not having to take certain medications and not living up to what anybody says, medical or not, specialist or not, in whatever field they are in. My reality, I create at all times, regardless. And I think all these things, knowing it truly frees you, because then whether you remain imprisoned or not is up to you. And so then you could start to understand people like Nelson Mandela and all of that, that they could restrict this body, but you are the person that will create all that you would feel and all that you would experience. And like Alex was saying, some of the things that we experience, some of it is shedding, some of it is as we ask for stuff, allowing the universe to bring certain things together. So like if you want a community where you have supportive people, you're on the same vibration, you're going to lose some of the people because some of the people are not on the same vibration. Like when you start where you are, some of the people you start together, but then maybe some people stop, maybe you're going in a different direction, maybe just certain things. And one of the main things that I realized as well in terms of being a creator is that I think Alex said, like when he stumped his toe and stuff, everything you experience it by yourself in your world. Like we're all here right now, but we're all experiencing this a little bit differently. So I create by myself in community with others. But the result of the creation is all on me. So that's what I believe.
What say you, Miss Angela?
So I definitely believe that we create our own reality. But again, for many people, it requires being intentional. It requires not only being intentional, but almost reinventing yourself as it relates to your mindset and the way that you think, and being comfortable in uncomfortable spaces as it relates to welcoming some of those challenges that you spoke of, Alex, or, just that's part of the process of creating our own reality. It doesn't, for me anyway, it didn't just happen. I literally had to pretty much just reinvent and just the way that I think, reinvent myself and really be comfortable in an uncomfortable space, if that makes sense, and until it became natural, you know. Um, but yes, our realities, whether negative or positive, we have so much control over that.
I remember about 20 years ago when I stopped drinking and doing drugs, and I met this Buddhist sensei. And if you've had deep conversation with me, I've mentioned him before. But if not, this guy is he completely, excuse me, changed my whole perception of how I thought about a lot of things. And a lot of it was whenever I would complain about something, he would say to me, what's the common denominator? And I'd say me. And he would say, okay. I'd complain about something else, the same thing. And one day he told me, he says, thank God that you're the common denominator. Thank God that you're the problem. Because if you're the problem, then you're also the solution. If somebody else is the problem, then you're the victim. And that changed my whole thinking about a lot of things. We are all creators of our reality. Everybody walking this planet is the creator of their reality. And reality is shaped based off of how we perceive things, our perceptions. And we all perceive things differently. The big problem is that a large portion of the world has no idea that they're creators, so they don't even know what they're creating, and they're creating low vibrational things, and they have no control over that because they do not know. And again, that's one of the reasons that I say we are blessed, because we are aware, number one, that if we're the problem, which we always are, I'm always the problem. I am always the problem. The way that I perceive things is always the problem. I'm also the solution. It's amazing to me, though, how different my life is today than how it was then. And when I say then, I mean my lower vibrational, unaware victim mentality, everybody hates me version. How different it is. And it allowed me to feel sorry for myself. It allowed me to lose hope in myself. It allowed me to give up on trying to do anything that I wanted to do. It allowed me to be in a mental, spiritual, emotional prison. How different my life is today. I'm a bad man. I mean, I am a bad man. Anything that I want, I know that it's mine. I know it's mine. It may not come as soon as I want it, but anything that I want, I know is mine. I own it. Now, why is that? Because I know that everything is vibration. At the end of the day, we are all energy. If I get my everything operates, anything that I ever want is on a certain plane. And all I have to do is bring my vibration up to that plane, and it's right there. We only attract what we are. We don't attract what we want. We attract who we are. And I know that if I can keep myself on a high vibration, anything on that vibration is mine. You cannot tell me that that's the most valuable information that anybody could ever tell me, they could ever give me. So one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about negative self-talk is because, number one, we all have it. We all have it. Number two, if we cannot identify it, we keep running in circles, doing the exact same thing, thinking the exact same thing, in disharmony with the world, creating a lot of chaos for ourselves and the people that we love. And once we identify it, we have the ability to change it, to rewrite the program, to make it quieter, to not allow it to have so much control over our lives and the reality that we create. Because we do create realities. You know, I talked about the subconscious. So basically, if I'm operating in here and it's all negative, so within as without. If everything that I think is negative, my actions are going to be negative. The way my energy comes at you is going to be negative. I'm going to attract a negative reality. So absolutely, I am the creator. I'm not God, but I am absolutely the master creator of my life and my reality. And it's all based off my beliefs, because my beliefs ultimately create my perception. So if I have a perception that it doesn't serve me well, I got to go back and take a look at my beliefs. And negative self-talk really is just some beliefs from a lower vibrational version of you that's still there. That's all it is. but I am truly blessed today. And I'm sure that everybody sitting here understands how blessed you are. And one of the reasons I want to talk about this is because there's a lot of people that find it very easy to be comfortable in that victim mentality and everybody is doing something when in reality, the only person that is doing it is you. You know? So I just want to kind of allow everybody to kind of have a final thought. And then we'll kind of wrap this up.
Well, so I'm a part of a fellowship. I had a problem with addiction as well, right? So I guess I'm a part of a fellowship, and you know, it's just I've learned a lot from them, right? But there's also stuff that my beliefs contradict in regards to this fellowship, right? They say to find a higher power, something outside of yourself, right? And it's just not that for me. You know, as I said before, that God force is it's all encompassing. It's the singularity. It's the stuff without labels. You know what I mean? And so that's just one thing. Another thing is being powerless over people, places, and things. On the material plane, the here and now, this you know, the dimension that we're in, or whatever, however you want to say it, you know, technically I really am. I can't forcefully make you think something or do something. You know, I can't stop them from putting that billboard up down the street. You know, if I'm going over a freeway, I can't stop them doing that billboard. But and that's on the surface. But the reality of the situation is I'm truly not powerless over people, places, and things, because as my internal changes, what I attract changes. The conversations with the same people who were in my life yesterday, if I'm vibrating different, I'm going to attract a different conversation with this person right here. You know what I mean? So the reality of the situation is, am I powerless over people, places, and things? On the surface, maybe, but below the surface, I'm truly not. When I change internally, I'm aware that everything, as Eric said, when I vibrate at a certain frequency, things align to vibrate at that same frequency. And it's just the law, you know? So when it comes to negative self-talk, and especially if that negative self-talk triggers an emotional response, then I got to worry. Because it feels like thoughts are thoughts, but once it becomes a feeling, that feeling has more of a magnetism, and that right there could be scary if you think about it. Because if you stay in that feeling too long, now your magnetism's up, and you're really, 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 really on thin ice from attracting what it is you don't want. You know what I mean? They say the subconscious, if you focus, I don't want bills, I don't want bills, I don't want bills. Subconscious don't want. You're focusing on bills. You are focusing on bills. You are focusing on bills that didn't get absorbed or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So ending thought, I really have to, a thought's one thing, but once that thought becomes a feeling, I better do something about it before I attract that situation I don't want. And with that, I can pass.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. All right, so in conclusion, if somebody watches this, of course, there's been a lot of good substance here, but where do the negative thoughts come from? Where does the self-talk, negative self-talk come from? It comes from the program. And I hope that that liberates you, because it's not you, it's the program. And that's always very empowering to know. So where do they come from? From the program. So you don't have to, you're not the program. You can change the program. How to control it? Interrupt them as much as possible, especially in the morning before you start your day. Meditation, journaling, gratitude, and then riding that plane through the rest of your day, doing your best not to fall back on the program. And we all struggle with it, and we always will. And I think, I forgot if it was Anne or Angela who said, our diet, our consumption, not only of our foods, but also of our social media and the people that we are with, our environment. So yeah, that's all I have to add, is that they're not yours. It's the program, and you can definitely control it. You can interrupt the thoughts until you find a higher frequency.
What say you, Miss Ann?
Can you repeat the question? My computer went out for a bit.
Just final thoughts.
My final thoughts as far as negative self-talk goes, I mean, there's no downplaying it when that's your reality. But I think once we make a decision and we decide to know the truth of who we are, and then once we understand the truth of who we are, being spirit, and being the essence of God. I know you said that you're not God, but sometimes I like to say that where God is, there I am. And where I am, God is. Not that I am God, but there is no God without me.
Miss Angela?
I would say my final thoughts as it relates to overcoming negative self-talk is just again, just redefining
Okay.
your thoughts and reinventing yourself, and just basically redefining your narrative and being intentional. Identify the thoughts that, when those negative thoughts are coming through, just really acknowledging that what's taking place, but then redirecting those thoughts, and just again with something positive, and just more importantly, just switching the narrative. And again, that may cause some discomfort until you become until that becomes habit forming.
Yeah,
Because
go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, because, again, we are in control. We have so much control. And I just think if everyone just realized, and I think a lot of people just don't really know, or a lot of people feel powerless to their thoughts, and they just simply don't know the power that they possess. We are powerful beings, and we have so much power and control over our lives and our thought processes. So it's just activating those things, and being intentional, being consistent, and just again creating our own reality. And I'm done.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of other side dishes that kind of play into the whole negative self-talk in different ways to kind of deal with it. For instance, forgiveness, self-forgiveness is very important. Pampering yourself is very important. I mean, there's a lot of other things that we didn't touch on today, as far as taking care of yourself and your well-being and investing positive energy into yourself that plays into this. Having said that, my final thoughts are going to be this. Anything that we think that isn't complete love is ultimately not us. Because that's what we are. We're love. We're absolute love. So any thoughts that we have that do not align with that love takes us out of alignment. To some degree, it's negative. That's what negative self-talk is. I am extremely glad that all of you were here to share this space with me and to discuss this. Again, I think that it's one of the things that people think or the form of thought that they have that creates so much of the conflict in the world. That's my personal thoughts. I think that a lot of the hatred, prejudice is a projection based on people's own negative self-talk. I think, having said that, negative self-talk is nothing that will ever go away for any of us. But I think that we also have the responsibility of identifying it and doing something about it. In conclusion, I absolutely love the concept that we are creators. I'm stuck on that. I'm stuck on the whole creator thing. I'm stuck on the idea that at any given time, I can change the way that I see things and my reality changes. I'm stuck on the concept that if I change my thought just a little bit, it changes everything. If I shift just how I look at things a little bit, my complete reality changes. And the beauty is, and I think the mission and the assignment for everyone is to join us on this journey to self and understand exactly who you are. Take ownership of what is in alignment with your highest and best. Do the work so that you operate at a higher frequency. Understand that you are the I am. Period. Period. And that's it. That's it. I am the I am. And one other thing when it comes to negative self-talk, it's important for me to recognize that when I say I am, any words that I put behind that, I make a reality. Because when I say I am calling upon the God within myself to make that real. So that's another thing to keep in mind. We're powerful beings, but we have to be responsible beings. And in order to be responsible, I have to take the time to understand exactly who I am. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I knew from the beginning the energy and how we were, the synchronicity between us was going to be amazing. And the other thing is that I am so, that tells you how bad I am, because I brought us all together. I brought us all together in this, for this platform. 5 powerful people, high vibrational energies. And I summoned each one of you at some different time in some different scenario to be a part of my life. And besides this podcast, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the connection that I have with each and every one of you. And Ann, you mentioned something about not being ready when we worked together, but you were ready. It was a precursor. Everything happens exactly the way that it's supposed to happen when it's supposed to happen. So those are my final thoughts. And so again, thank you for being a part of my little bubble in my podcast, me and Angie's podcast of The Journey to Self. And I look forward to talking to each and every one of you again very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was so great to speak with and meet each and every one of you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Alex, you're a bad man. I just want you to know that. I watch you all the time. You're a good dude. Not to blow up your ego, but yeah, you're all right.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have a great evening.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Have a good one.